The reality of my birth, not pretty. No glamour pages of introduction, yet hell released its own headline, and it read, "Extra, extra, read all about it. Another abandoned black baby becomes a drug statistic." This was the propaganda. Demonic media streaming through lyrical highways, attempting to set the stage as if my bloodline needed an encore. Demons were trying to predict the outcome of my destiny, foretelling my fate as if one could see the mind of God, as if God Almighty himself would even attempt to unveil his secret weapons to mere common dust. But there I lay, not even the size of grace nor Trinity, a mere pounds of eager flesh, passing through the wombatic borders and boundaries from life unto death, shackled by the chains of generational infestations, plagued by the residue cords of ancient spirits, but wrapped in the swaddling prophetic garbs of time. You see, my gift is older than me, preceded my entry, paved the way of my arrival, becoming my security blanket and my covering. But these demonic assassins thought that they could silence my voice of ancient prophetic winds of time, or at least to create a gateway of destruction, as if the mantles of Issachar and Enoch would ever be erased, thinking that the legacy of royalty could ever be replaced. Thus in my womb lies the core of my mission, intact, hidden, and in place. You see, I am eternity's misfit. Yes, angel dust flew in these newborn veins, thinking they'd ensure insanity's vanity, attaching itself to my future, obviously adding obituary confirming facts that foretold a premature outcome of my death, spitting hairs with heroin, free base through veins not yet developed, conversing with death, angels warring for my existence. The grim reaper slept in silence while convulsions pushed through pampered lungs, yet identity theft pulsated through pain, shattering the pieces not collected, but leaking into the marrows of my bone. Feedback, not an option. Abortion would have been easier, but I was selected, force-fed intravenously, made to drink from heaven's prophecies, all while consuming ancestral dysfunctions' histories. My life becomes the producer of epics, a parable of poetry to skeptics, confusing the minds of gnostics, philosophers puzzle because I am the conjunctions of thought, the comma that pauses, caught in between two conversations, an artifact of originality, mixed with the traces of bloodline of strychnine, bearing the mark of two worlds. You see, I am eternity's misfit. I am well acquainted with grief. It is a badge of honor. My scars become life's hand-painted portrait of adversity, born with no silver spoon in my mouth, born with the compassion of the broken, but buried in the wisdom of tombs, marinated in the collection of sauces of simmering juices of crucifixion. Like Moses, I was sold upon the auction blocks into privileged institutions, but ate from the barren scraps of inequality, drunk from the murky waters of discrepancy, groomed in the systems of men, called to destroy the political agendas, but first was crushed by their scepters. And now, I am a voice of justice, but first I was a murderer of cause. These hands have learned to fight on the back streets of shame, filling in the gaps where time became the incongruent, religion the impulsive lover, and irresponsibility the sign of youthful immaturity. But I was always born to be a misfit. My existence misguided me. My birth misaligned me. My childhood misunderstood me. My education misinstructed me. My adolescence informed me. My mentors mishandled me. And religion misplaced me. My worth misinterpreted me. But I was always born to be a misfit. Though my story is still being transcribed, I stand alongside the trailblazers before me, whose written salutations are etched in the bareback skins of my authenticity, counting it an honor to be a nonconformist, the mere composition of an authorship's creativity. I am eccentric in my nature. The poetic penmanship is my landscape, placed upon the canvas hearts of men. Unconventional are my methods. Peculiar is my foundation. Strange is my essence. The rare aroma that time has manufactured, and the Father has approved of me and is pleased. Thus I rewrite the headlines that hell introduced, because I am not a statistic, but I am the product of heaven's misfit generation, called to confound the wise. I am proud to be called eternity's misfit.
Welcome back. I'm Jeremiah. I kind of mentioned this last video, but I am usually the cameraman, but today I am also kind of a interviewer. So it's weird being on this side of the camera. And then again, if you have not tuned in or have not seen this before, please introduce yourself.
I am Miss Sandy, or Sandy Love.
So, like, for those who do not know, I am her son.
One of them.
One of them, the youngest one. And you'll probably see a few of us throughout the video. But as we dive into it, how are you doing?
I'm good. I needed that little break. Yeah.
Understandable. So where we left off last episode, we was talking about how it was definitely when she just found out she was pregnant with my oldest brother. And I believe the last question I asked was, how did Aunt Barbara take it? But I want to pivot a little bit, because you did mention she asked you a question. How do you plan on raising him, or how do you plan on taking care of him?
Right.
So what was your plan for a 16-year-old, 15, turning 16-year-old?
Right.
Pregnant?
Well, and let me say, her questions were valid, and let me explain why, and why abortion was a consideration. As I guys told you, I was not a dumb kid. Just to put some context here, when I moved with her, so I was 13, so of course 14, I'm going to high school, going to Germantown High School. Go G-Town. Anyway, so I'm going into high school, and when I get there, they gave me some baby work, you know. And so after about like the first or second week, I stopped going. And I was getting high, smoking, not going to school. And of course my aunt didn't know at this time or whatever, but I never forget this, because Miss Johnson was a like social worker at the school we had him. Mm-hmm. And so she saw me cutting up, getting high, and she said, "Come here." She says, "What class you supposed to be in?" I said, pre-algebra. And she says, "Why you not in class?" I said, "Because I already know it. Y'all know how we are when you that age." "Well, you mean you already know it?" I said, "This is baby work. I'm not coming for this. You can't teach me that now I don't already know." And so I never forget this, y'all. She pulled my file, because it has all my information, my records and everything like that. And she said, come with me. And she tested me. And I wound up literally testing straight into the Magnet program. And Germantown was one of the very few high schools at that time that had a Magnet class. So Germantown was big. Like, while I'm talking, hopefully you're getting kind of like a panoramic view of it. But we had like the regular school, and then we had this side wing here, and then a side wing here, and then it had a daycare built into it. I mean, it was massive. And hopefully you're looking at the inside of it now, since I don't have it in front of me. And so I remember everything happened so fast, because it was kind of like I'm in the office, I'm taking this test. It didn't take me that long. And next thing I know, she's taking me upstairs to, I don't remember this white dude's name. He was a funny looking something. And she was saying, hey, this is Sandy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm putting her in your class. And of course he looks at me because I probably don't look like much, you know. And we were taking anthropology, trigonometry, we were taking physics. I was on the debate team and the whole nine. And I remember her saying this. She said, now you're going to have to apply yourself. In other words, that level of, that was like college work. And so the why that's important is because from 9th grade up until the 11th grade, that's what I did. Never missed a class, loved the challenge, was on the debate team, all of that. So for the first time, well, not the first, the second time. The first was 8th grade with the trigonometry. I had learned all that. I was just maxing stuff, man. And so here I come into high school and I'm put, for the first time I'm being challenged. Second time I'm being challenged in a way that I felt good about coming to school. Didn't miss any classes. I wasn't playing hooky. I still turned up and did my fighting thing, but it, you know, I had a balance to it and everything like that. So here, I'm pregnant. Mm-hmm. I'm in my 10th grade. So being in magnet classes, you're scrutinized more. So one of my white teachers who was married to a black dude, I had her for trigonometry, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it physics? One or the other. No. It was trigonometry because she took it upon herself to embarrass some young lady that was in the 9th grade and was pregnant. And here I was in the 10th grade and nobody knew I was pregnant. And so she felt the need to embarrass the girl and told her something like, so you gonna be on welfare all your life and take care of that baby? Man, I cussed that woman out so bad, it wasn't funny. And so, of course, they called my aunt, you know, the mafia. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble. And so I got to the house, and that night she called my aunt. And I'll never forget this. I remember my aunt / mom, okay? I never forget this. I stood over there waiting, because I had my speech ready, you know. And so she said, let me ask you a question. You've never had a problem with her. She has an A average in your class, and you calling me up making all these threats about what you're going to do and stuff like that. And yet, my question to you is, what did you say to her that made her snap? Now, you know that had to be God, because that woman was kicking my butt by the time I got to her house. But she began to understand my rhythm, I believe. And so, of course, she got off the phone and I told her what happened. And she said, well, Sandy, that was none of your business. I said, I know, but it wasn't right. So what I didn't know was that little fighter in me was trying to defend everybody else. I hate to see people wrong. I don't like injustice. And that's not my first story, but that's just the one for the context of this particular story. So long story short, that woman never bothered me again. But then about maybe a few weeks later, I found out I'm pregnant. I'm in the same class. And so she did the same thing to me. And I looked at that white heifer and I told her, no, she said, I guarantee you that you won't make it down that aisle. And I said, not only will I make it down that aisle, but I'm going to spit clean in your face when I get there. Okay, listen, I had a problem. All right, let's acknowledge it. Okay, but this is how. And listen, Germantown was not in no hood. Go do the research. They closed down. They weren't in no hood. And so my aunt asking me the reason she was saying or suggesting abortion was because you're in magnet school. When you graduate, that's 1 year college. You can step in college as a sophomore. You know, that's how her mind was thinking. And so then it was, who's going to watch the baby? When you're in school, I had to go to work. Gail ain't did nothing, or whatever the case was. And so again, but remember, God said, you give that baby all the love that you never had. So I couldn't give him up. And so I didn't have a plan. And I remember telling her I'm not going to give him up. And of course, typical mom, we had money, but I understood the point. Middle class don't mean splurge. You know what I mean? Because look at all the people in the mouth she was responsible for. And even my Uncle Chidi, when he was there, he gave. But when you feeding all them people up in the house, what was that? 3, her made 4, her 2, 4, 5, 6, their 2, 7, 8, Chidi 7. Carolyn said over there that was 8. So at least about a house full of 10 minimum. On top, I forgot about Ryan. And then, you know, people that need help, because she was always helping somebody in the neighborhood. Make a long story short, I started calling around, and as God is my witness, I had called. I didn't know who to call. I can't even remember how I found this Catholic church. They brought me a crib. I had Pampers set up before he ever got out the hospital, receiving blankets, and I had not Pampers, I had diapers. Those are the kind you wash by hand because you want to do it the natural way. It's overrated. Get you some disposable Pampers. Stop playing. And so they brought it all to my house, and because I had my own room, I had all his stuff set up. His godfather, Lester, who worked across the street, adopted Shayna before Shayna was ever born, because he liked me. You know how that go. And man, he was just always right there. So I believe that God was encouraging me not to have the baby. So now I'm in school. I'm in 11th grade, and I had a decision to make. And that was, do I struggle? Meaning, how can I put the same intensity while going to the magnet classes? Should I just go ahead and go down to the regular 12th grade and ease through? And that's the route that I took. I didn't want to, because it wasn't hard. Gail did watch him while I went to school during the daytime. And when I got home, it was me and him. And that was really never a problem. If I went on a date, he's sitting right there with me. And the only reason why Shayna does not have a nickname now is because the dude I was dating, Anthony, who was in the Air Force, called him Tank, and Tank never stuck. So he stayed around a while now, but the nickname didn't stick. But my point was that I was encouraged. Now, so school happens, and then I think I wound up taking a summer job. Here's where things get tricky. I wound up taking a summer job at McDonald's. And and so my aunt said, hey, you know, if you're going to take care of this baby need medical. And I know you're against welfare and all of that, but you might need those food stamps and you might need that check to help out. I said no, because my mom I didn't want to be on welfare. She wasn't on welfare, so why should we be? And her point, of course, was if he gets sick, something happened, you need to have it. So I go down to welfare and I apply only for the medical card. And no money or nothing like that. And the lady told me, she said, you know your aunt, because she took us in her home, she's our guardian, though she's our aunt. And she gets food stamps for you guys, and she gets medical in case something happened, which made sense, you know. But their theory was, don't rock the boat. You're already getting assistance from us. Now the check she's getting for you can go to you and to your son, and we'll pay for you to go to college. And in fact, you can quit McDonald's, and you can go ahead and sit home. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. Now, I didn't have a plan, right? But I knew I didn't want to be on welfare because for whatever reason, my mind, I'm like 17, 12th grade. So my mind has figured out the trap. The trap was keep you home on welfare and they'll take care of you. I didn't know nothing about the system or nothing like that, but my mind, it didn't make sense. So I decided that while working for McDonald's, let me see, is the statutory limitations up? I think so. I think it's up. Okay.
Now, before you do that, Because you say has their own limit.
Right. So I found a way to make some money, and it wasn't didn't do it for a long period of time because I almost got caught. But what it was you got what was Happy Meal, about $2 a meal or something like that, and you got about 4 kids plus you. So when you come in the door, I'm like, okay, 2, 4, 6. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's $10. Oh, they got another one. Okay. So before you even open your mouth to order, it was pretty simple. It was like, just give me $10, and whatever you want, you get that. And so we invented that, and but I only did it like once or twice. It wasn't a long period of time. But anyway, so that was my first hustle. Now this is the part that I'm not proud of, but keeping it honest and keeping it real. This is why I advocate for teenage moms, and I advocate against sex trafficking. Next to my aunt, again on that strip, black middle class people that work. And I remember, in fact, I was actually talking to my mother during this time, and she came to me, asked me, I went out there to meet one of my sisters or something, and she was always begging for $2, $2 for a beer, $2. But anyway, I gave it to her, and I had like a 20, and she saw that. And so she was like, let me get that 20, I'm gonna give it back to you tomorrow. And I was like, no, you ain't. I didn't know nothing about the drug game in life, so I didn't know they was all liars. I didn't know. And so she said, no, for real, I get my check tomorrow, I'm gonna give it right back to you. So I gave it to her. I gave her the last 20 that would have given me a month's worth of Pampers. So the next day, guess what? I don't have no Pampers. And I don't have nobody I can call. And guess what? My family wasn't helping me with Pampers because either they ain't had no money or they didn't want to give it to me. And I'll never forget this old dude named Gus. Gus was always in my face, making propositions and stuff. Never took him up on it or nothing like that, but that day I did. And I needed to have some Pampers. And I was sick as a dog. But I didn't care because my kid came first. And so that's the first experience of realizing I can make more money in 5 minutes than I can in a day. Also, it kept me from having to rely on boyfriends and people that make empty promises. And when you're young like that, you always got to. I never was in a situation where I had to worry about a man, let alone ask for anything. I don't know. I never had to worry about that. But I think I was still young, and I was trying to make it profitable and use what my mama gave me, so to speak. And I ran into another situation. Her name is Asia. I don't even know if Asia's still alive, but one day, and we were young, so we were always talking about wanting to be models and all that. I mean, when you're 120 pounds and you about that big, yeah, you want to do whatever, because in your mind, you're planning to prepare for your family, for your kids, and stuff like that. You don't know nothing, and really, nobody teaches you anything. And so, what I didn't know, Asia says to me, hey, you still want to be a model? Yeah, I do. Okay, well, meet so-and-so at the corner store at 6 p.m. and he gonna give you all the information you need. And we're talking about the 80s, so 84, 85. And so, in 86, because I went to the military right after this. And so I come out the house that day, and as I'm coming out of my house, we have a long grass, so like a lump, and something punched me in the stomach, and I remember like, what the hell? And I'm still going. I ignored it. Next thing I know, punched me in the stomach again, and I could hear this audible voice say, get in the house. And I went in the house and never looked back. 2 weeks later, I see Asia again. Hey, like, old boy say you didn't meet him. And I was like, yes. I don't know. Wasn't feeling right. Wasn't feeling it. Went on about my business. About a week or two after that, we were finding out in the neighborhood that this girl was selling girls to this dude. He was picking them up and he was snatching them and he was taking them to Jersey. Why we knew that was because older women, not when I say older, I mean maybe 20 something, 24, 25, they were being snatched up, and then it kind of came out through the family what was going on. And I was like, man, I almost came up missing. Now, the relevance of that is that, again, when you don't know somebody's story, you're not in a position to understand why they do what they do. So when I opened up May's Youth Advocacy, again, getting ahead of myself, that was why. Number one, your friends will sell you out for some money and don't even like you. That girl didn't care for us. We got high every now and then. We were nothing but a quick buck. She wasn't very liked in the neighborhood. Everybody talked about her and her family. I'm just keeping it 100. But she was your friend to get what she wanted. But never had not the Holy Ghost, I believe, stopped me that day, I would have been somewhere on a boat somewhere and my son would have been abandoned. Number two, I wound up quitting. I think I wound up quitting McDonald's after some point because we was almost busted. We'll just say that. And I was left to have to figure out how I was going to take care of my son. Now, at this time, I do believe I had moved. And I was actually staying between Ricky and my mom and them at the projects, because by the time grandmother had been died and everything like that, and me and my natural mother, we weren't going to survive. And so I had to figure out what to do. And I didn't know what to do. So the money was good coming in. No, I ain't never walked the street, nothing like that. But a lot of this generation's not doing it either. But the money was good. And I didn't have to want for anything. And that's just the truth. That is really the truth of the matter. So, 12th grade, I graduated. Did I spit in that woman's face? No, I didn't. But when I walked by her, and that was a funny thing. How you gonna be on the board giving out diplomas to students that you don't even like? And so when I walked by her and I said, remember you said I wouldn't make it? Eat your words. And she bucked up and looked crazy, but she couldn't do nothing because, and I walked on. So yeah, like that was some of the stuff that we went through and that we had to do and had to endure. But again, all of this was for the sake of just trying to survive. Now, I had no plan after high school. In fact, I remember, like everybody, I'm sure it's the same way now. We come in school, out of school, Army, National Guard, Navy, everybody standing right there in uniform because they're trying to make their quota. I never paid to know mine, never paid to know my. Matter of fact, they never talked to me. I probably had crazy written on my head. So it never bothered me at all, But I remember that summer, I ain't telling you the year because none of your business. But I remember the summer, and we did with most, kids like we did every summer. We sat out on the stoop, went to the movies, we enjoyed our summer. We went here, we went there, and all of that. But I remember that feeling when September came around. And I remember thinking, what am I going to do? I have nowhere to go. And this voice said to me, you're good at fighting. Next time you get in a fight, just kill somebody. You go to prison, you can run the whole prison. You'll have power, you'll have control. I wish I was making this up. And I remember saying, well, that don't make no sense. I mean, just came out of nowhere. And so a few days later, still September, a few days later, Ricky, the cop I was dealing with, don't ask nothing. We ain't got to tell you no lie. Just listen to the story. And so Ricky was mentoring this young guy named Chucky. Chucky was I'm 18, so Chucky was probably 19, maybe 20. Ricky was just too old. And so Ricky said, hey, I went to go see him. down North Philly, and he said, "Hey, come on a ride with me and to the MEP station and take this test with Chucky, because he's scared. He failed it twice, and he need a little bit of confidence. So let me play the girl against, the girl against God type thing, because the boys always thought they could beat girls." And so of course Chucky was like, "Yeah, I'm a pastor. You gonna fail, all that." So went down there and we both took the test. Mind you, I had not. He's failed it twice and studied again. I've never taken a test. Knew there was a test. Nothing until that day. He fails the test again. I passed the test. And Ricky, who used to be in the military, said, "Don't do nothing. Don't sign nothing. Just sit here till I get back. I gotta go take him home, but because you passed the test, they gonna hit you with a lot of options. They're gonna hit you with this and this and this and this and this. Don't you do nothing until I get back." I was like, okay. Shoot, them recruiters was like, you can go around the world, you can go do this, and I was like, for real, like I was a kid in a candy store. And so I said, well, what's available? What can I do basically? What job? And they says, well, you qualify for, I guess we would call it PAC. PAC was like personnel, sit type, stuff like that. And it says, but, and I think it was that, and I think it was supply, some kind of supply or maintenance or something like that. And they says, but none of that will be open until January. Do you want to wait until January to come or February? Or if you go now, all we got is cook. I was like, cook? I don't want to be no cook. I was like, you don't have nothing else open? And they was like, no. And I said, well, if I take the cook, number one, can I change it or upgrade from it? And when do they leave? He said, you can always upgrade at any time, and you can leave November 1st or something like that. It's already September. Now, mind you, that was the Army. When I went, I checked in for the Air Force. I couldn't go because I had a kid. Navy, same reason. Marines said you can have a kid, but you got to give him up for adoption. Hell to the no. The Army was the only one that said you can keep your kid, just write over an affidavit giving somebody temporary custody until you get situated. And I know it sounds crazy, but that was the writing on the wall. And so I signed up that day. Of course, Ricky came back. What the hell did you do? They told me I could leave. Like, I'm trying to get up out of Philly. But I really believe, and nobody can tell me no different today, that was not the Holy Ghost, because I really do believe that the enemy was giving me a preview in that statement of going to prison. Because though I was a mama, no, I wasn't out there in them streets fighting, but I would fight you. I ain't had no God like harnessing me, I'ma say it that way. And so I don't know why. I knew that was my out, and I went home and I asked my aunt, hey, can Shana stay here? Because Shana was only one. And I was like, just long enough for me. I said, I'm not giving you my kid, And because look, you got to understand something. My mother abandoned me. I was not fit to abandon my child. And so, hey, it's Apostle Prophetess Sandy Love. How you doing? Look with no lashes on. This intermission is different. I felt like this was a good place to put an intermission in. I want to read to you what sex trafficking is. Is that okay? Stay with me. It is the unlawful act for a person to knowingly traffic another person who is under the age of 18. Trafficking or sex trafficking means that you are causing a person to engage in prostitution or sexual performance by deception, force, or coercion. Deception, misleading them. Selling your child is sex trafficking. Convincing your child that you need the money to pay a bill is sex trafficking. By force, this sometimes is where you see people that are in a gang, and the gang is saying, hey, the only way that you can get in this is to do X, Y, Z. Coercion is a little interesting. It's because sometimes you can be threatened or to convince to be doing something. This story or my life is the reason why I deal with sex trafficking victims. Number one, what do you do when, though you may have not been physically forced, but sometimes the surroundings around you presented themselves as an option? Okay, think about what I'm saying. What do you do when a family member drops you off at a place knowing that you're about to be violated? What do you do when someone has set up to sell you? Listen, these are the signs of what is called sex trafficking. Even if they're doing it on their own and they're under 18, it is the circumstances by which they're trying to survive that makes it sex trafficking. Whereas when you are an adult and you are over the age of 18 and you are out there, they don't call it that anymore. It's called prostitution. And I do realize that there is a fine line between them both. But the problem is, when I got into this line of work in 2016, we found so many different scenarios and so many different options that young people were forced to have to survive, whether being kicked out of a home, whether the parents kicked them out, whether the parents didn't want to help them and they were runaways and they had to survive. This is a big problem. I didn't even realize that part of that fell into my lap, being raised in Philadelphia. Stories I've never told, things I've never said. And I'm not necessarily passing any judgment or blaming anybody for anything. But sometimes when you tell a story, there is a middle, there is a beginning, and there is an end. But sometimes in order to understand why people are the way they are, it's because something took place in the beginning that caused the middle and that had an ending. Now, thank God that there is a happy ending in this. But many of you that are my family, you've never heard my story. So you didn't know. You didn't know that just around the corner, someone was trying to sell me. You didn't know that just down the street at the corner, there was a man waiting on me because he had been promised that I would get there. You didn't know that the only way I was trying to survive to take care of my son was not to be on welfare. So I had to find another reason. I had to find another way. And I had to figure life out. So I don't tell this story because I'm proud. But I tell it because, like everything else in our family, and what's funny is this: why did I find out years later that we had a whorehouse? Our great grandmother had a whorehouse. Like, why is that story never been told? Why am I just now hearing it? It's not about whether it's true or not. But what I found out was that our family is not squeaky clean, and that prostitution was how many of them survived. But you never told us anything. You didn't tell us what to look out for. You didn't share your knowledge. You didn't share your abuse and your pain. So you did not properly prepare us for some things. Now, for my younger sisters, I believe maybe things were different for you all. And prayerfully, somebody opened up and had some conversations, or God led different people or from different families to pull you up out of things, which is probably why we are all so successful now. But this is my journey. And I thank God that church became my vice. It became the way that God got my attention. It became the way that God began to heal me. And I thank Him for it. I don't want you to listen to these stories and think, oh, I just hated the whole family and I didn't like Loretta. I didn't know Loretta. Truth. I didn't even know Betty. Truth. But I was the product of a lot of the brutality that came from Betty. I don't remember Loretta. Crystal says I do. I don't remember.
Is it somebody's fault? No, it's called trauma. Trauma. So to my sisters, this ain't easy. But life ain't never been easy for none of us. So be careful what you point your finger at, because you got kids. And as you have already discovered, they will not always do what you want them to do. So the more you empower them and the more that you equip them for the truth of your journey of life, then that serves as a marker of preparation, and it serves as being able to share your stories as I did my stories to my kids, so that they did not have to and did not go down that same path for the most part that I know of. Okay. But listen, this is what I do. But the company that I now have and the demographics of who I serve, between foster kids, juvenile youth, and those kids who have run away and had to survive by selling their bodies, this is my story of why I do what I do. I know it's more to go, but I wanted to take the time just to step in and say, yeah, this really happened. Not proud of it, but it is my story. All right? Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
Before we talk about how you got settled into the military, I'm curious, do you remember your last day before you go? Like, what was that like?
You know, I was eager to go. I was packing stuff that I couldn't use because the military is not going to let you go. But Uncle T.D. gave me some good advice. So, and mind you, when I signed up, I never told anybody because it happened just that fast. I signed up and then told everybody I was leaving. So, my Uncle T.D., he was so cool. He was like a daddy to me. He was the one who would come in and drop me money in the morning for food. Drop me money so I could go gamble. It was crazy. But anyway, he was my uncle. He told me, he said, I didn't know that he was in the military. He showed me, he came in there one day, showed me in his uniform with his fine, sexy self. And so he said to me, he said, look, I know you don't like people in your face. And I know that if somebody get in your face, you don't have no problem putting them in their place. He says, but if you're really serious about going into the military, you can't walk around cussing people out and telling them to kiss you behind. Y'all understand the translation. And so he said, so remember, they have a job to do. And their job is to make you a soldier. Look at this as a game. So when they get to hollering and get to yelling in your face and all of that, he said, it's a game. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not going to touch you. Look at it as a game. Baby, honey, I made it. Because let me tell you something. Y'all got to realize all these anger issues, all this hurt and pain. Y'all seen 6888? Y'all seen it by now. We went through all of that. Now you got a nice version of it because baby, but going crawling in them duck holes and all that kind of stuff, them drills are, what do you mean? Who are you looking at, private? Get down, get down, get down, get down, get down. Give me 15, give me 25. What? Are you stupid? Yes, baby. They talk just like that. So let me tell y'all something. Them drills, my drill sergeant was 4 feet. I'm 5, so I ain't that much. And she be all up in your face. Her hat be touching your head because she's so short. And you be like, this nigga better move. We about to have a misunderstanding, you know. And all I could hear was my uncle saying, Sandy, don't cuss nobody out. It's a game. Look at it as a game. I know that sounds crazy to you listening to me. But sometimes you got so much street smart mixed up with pain and anger and regret and issues and trauma. That was wisdom to me. He showed me how to survive the game. That's it. He showed me how not to take it personal in that one statement. Don't take it personal. Because it was not personal. We were young, dumb, inexperienced. didn't know nothing about nothing on top of trauma, and we stepped into their world, and we had to be trained to become a soldier. So y'all look at me now and be like, oh, you just so militaristic. No, I ain't never been militaristic. I was broken. I had to understand what it meant to mature and to grow up and to find something to live for in a cause that was bigger than me. That was my livelihood. And if I would have messed it up, Shannon wouldn't have had a place to stay. Y'all wouldn't be here. So there comes a point in time where you have to decide what is worth growing up for. And having a baby will make you grow up. I found out that, see, in the city we love, we get you told, and we'll fight you out there, and you walk away like, yeah, I won that. I whooped that tail. Whoa, 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 whoa. You look like an idiot. You look like a fool. Oh, they disrespected me. I'm going to get these niggas told. I know, baby, but honey, I come from all of it. And guess what? I went to Georgia, Fort Lee, Fort Stewart, Fort Riley. I went to Germany. We went to all these different places. You know what I found out? How ignorant we look because we have no self-control. We don't know how to carry ourselves. We don't know how to act. And you talking about, I ain't gonna let nobody disrespect me. You look like a poverty-stricken hood rat, whether you're from the hood or not. I had to find another way to deal with anger, to be an adult, to be a responsible adult. Don't misunderstand me now. I turned up. But I had to know my boundaries. I had to know my limitations. I had to know what I could do and what I couldn't do. And I did not learn any of that until I went in the Army. The truth be told, I believe I suffered from arrested development. Self-diagnosis is what I'm saying. Arrested development is where you go through trauma and stuff in your childhood, and the trauma arrests your growth, and you're stuck. And now you're just surviving, and you don't know what to do because you never got the areas of maturity. Just as simple as me saying, I never made a bed till I was 13 years old. I never washed a dish. I couldn't tell you about taking out no trash or nothing. But when I got there, I began to learn. So I believe the military was God's way of grooming me, to, if I can use that word. But I don't want to talk about the military because that is its own world. We'll save that for next time. But I can honestly say that I had to grow up. And I had to decide what was important. A lot of people, my people, we go in there with all that street stuff, and you want to run this and run that and turn tables over and bucket people. And then when you get dishonorably discharged, you'll never get a good job ever again in your life. And you will be labeled. Dishonorable means you are a has-been. You are a dud. Y'all know what a dud is, right? And don't listen, it has no sense. It is unusable. That's not something you want on your record from the military. Trust me. We've seen people get put out on dumb stuff or try to play the crazy role to get out. And so that one, oh my God, my uncle didn't stay with me much longer after that. But I always think about TD giving me the best wisdom. He probably didn't know it was wisdom. And I never went back and said thank you. But that was the best bit of wisdom I got from him. And that is, stop taking everything personal. Shut your mouth. Do what you're told and play it as a game. When you learn the rules of a game, you can play the game more effectively. And that's all I got on that. But you think your mom was crazy, don't you?
No. It's one of those parts, and just again, being the cameraman behind a lot of this, I'm putting the pieces together of the family, but not just the family. I just like in those crucial points, God had someone there. That's what it felt like. It feels like in the crucial points where it came to the decision, God just made sure someone's in the right place, right time.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So we're going to touch base on the military later. So having said that, I can even use myself because I'm 30. We ain't going to talk about it. Right. So it is a very big thing now. Because a lot of stuff you talked about, whether the teenage pregnancies or making those crucial life decisions, a lot of people even now, when it comes to this whole thing, mental health, everyone talks about mental health. What advice, definitely with a lot of teenage parents or even youth advocacy, what advice would you give someone to help survive some of this crucial time?
I think one of the things that I'm really implementing in our structure dealing with youth, and that is you have to create a task force. Okay? Simply means that you need to create points of contact where you can go, people you can call that can help you in your mental state. We didn't have none of this. But because we live in a different type of a generation and they're a lot more sensitive than we ever were, they need to have somebody they can call. A standby therapist, an aunt, or somebody that they can talk to. Mom and parents, let me tell you something. Sometimes you're not the one they coming to. Tell you this from experience. You're not the one they're going to talk to. Yes, you love the Lord. I love the Lord too. But if the Lord can use me speaking in a way where I don't have to cuss and defame and do all that dumb stuff and yet still maintain the integrity of Christ, trust me that I know how to talk your kid off the ledge. You need people that can make up a team and a task force that you can call to be intervention, to be encouragement, to come take the hostile takeover, remove them from an atmosphere physically if need be, to keep them from going to jail. You got to have that. I get now why people say it takes a village. Yeah, but you get to create that village. The village don't have to be CPS. It don't have to be the detention center. We got to go back and redefine how we're going to help our kids. Again, if somebody would have told me I was going to wind up in this line of work, I'd have been like, I know y'all lying to me. More stories I'll tell you about later, but for the most part, God had to take me through it so I could bring another generation through it. And that's just all I know how to wrap that up like that.
And I will say, being the youngest, so I already kind of told my age. I already kind of did. So, and this might just sound cliche, but being the youngest out of 4. Well, okay, we can talk about the others. Being the youngest out of 4 from my mother, it is true. I'm not going to even lie. She has had to raise all 4 of us, which has been very fun. I know I gave her a lot of fun in the last few years. I've been very good. But it does take time, and definitely now seeing not just the son, seeing her mindset growing up. And I know I talked about the generational things and just learning. It does take time to develop it. And one thing I will say, just from my direct experience of not being fully cooperative, it is good to have that outside, because she knows I don't always tell her everything, and there's still stuff she don't need to know. Mm-hmm. That task force, that someone that could go to, does help, and I personally would recommend it.
Yeah.
Definitely with someone with the amount of experience she has with the, we're just gonna say 30 plus years of experience. We ain't gonna tell her age.
Why you be trying to tell people
we ain't
my
gonna tell her
age and
age.
stuff? That ain't right. Don't be listening to him. I'm trying to tell my age on the slide. But yeah, so I would recommend that for sure. Yeah. So we'll talk about military life in a later episode. Maybe we get your sister to do it.
Oh, yes. You heard a little bit from her, so more than likely the next few episodes you're going to see more. Because one thing I want to get into, you mentioned Georgia. I know that's where she was born.
Yeah, that's where she was born.
So
here we go, y'all. Here we go.
I can't wait.
Heads up.